Dan Ullman, Mike Beer, the DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day for Wednesday, May the 3rd is race number 8 at Belmont Park. We're going 1.25 miles on the inner turf. Let's take a look at this field of salty optional claimers. Remember, head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com. Download those free Formulator past performances and handicap along with us. And really, Mike, the question for this race is, can the number 3 Mr. Maybe run anymore?
Yeah, I suspect that he can. I just think they're being realistic with him now. To me, anyway, he's just not really a graded stakes turf horse. I mean, he does his best in those races. Those horses, they're better than he is. They're putting up $90,000 for these races now, these allowance races going long on the grass at Belmont. So it's a good spot for Mr. Maybe to just take a little step back in class, although this is really sort of a stakes quality allowance field.
It's truly a stakes quality allowance field. Are you disheartened by the Pan American? He was 3-1 in that race. He never picked his feet up. Yeah,
especially because if you go like the 3 races before that, if you wanted to, you could really find some excuses for him. I don't know what happened last time, man. He just didn't run.
And does it bother you that Chad is running him for the tag? 62.5. Yeah. Perfectly willing to get rid of him. These horses bought him. These people bought him privately in 2015, expecting big things. It looked like they were going to get it because they won the Red Smith, they won the John's Call. I don't know, man. To me, there are a lot of black flags, although I will admit that if he can still run, he's supposed to be really salty with
he's supposed to be really tough. I thought, I guess you're right, though, because they could find some, sort of maybe some listed stakes races that he could still win. I don't think he can win a graded stakes race. So giving him up for the 62.5, maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's not. My biggest thing with him is he's just going to be a really short price in here, and I'm not sure what his edge really is.
That's a very good point. Montclair is also dropping out of a couple of graded stakes races. I wonder if this race will eventually be a prep for the Belmont Gold Cup, that 2-mile race. It's that good an optional claimer. Montclair, getting back to New York, getting back to Danny Gargan, maybe it'll work wonders. The last time he was in New York, he ran a good second behind a very promising horse in Sadler's Joy, and that was for the 62.5.
Yeah, that's right. He fits really well in this race, and he wants to go long as well. He might even want to go a little bit further than this. I mean, the 1.25 miles might actually be short for him, but it'll be fine for him. He's actually a pretty good horse, Dan. This is just a really tough race.
Formulator fact for the number 2, Revved Up, going out for the always dangerous Shug McGahee barn over the past 2 years, with 3 and up turf riders making the second off the layoff and optional claimers at Belmont. Good numbers, almost 30% to 282 ROI. Revved Up was far back last time out, which shouldn't come as a surprise, because whenever Revved Up is in middle distance races, he just can't keep up. When he stretches out to 1.25 miles, he can stay a little bit closer to the pace, and I think that's got to be the plan for John Velasquez.
Yeah, that's what I like about him too. I mean, I think he just started finding himself when they started going longer with him last year, and it helps that he keeps himself in really good position in those races. When they go shorter, for some reason, he can't keep up. Although that last race, I mean, it was off the layoff. It was 1 mile. That was a pretty big pace in that race, and it was just dominated by closers. They just all came from the back of the pack. He was one of those. I thought he ran fine. I also felt like they were probably prepping him to stretch him out.
I agree. That was probably a nice starting off point for his first start of the year. Can you make the case that while he did win his maiden over this course and distance, that he actually wants a little more ground?
Yeah, I do think he might want to go a little further. This is a good distance for him, and I think this is the right race to run him in. But it's not like, he'll be another one. He'll be a relatively short price in here, and it's not like he doesn't still have something to prove.
Camp Creek is a Canadian Classic winner. He won the Breeders' Stakes last summer at Woodbine, and I thought against older horses in the Northern Dancer, considering that there was no pace whatsoever, that this lightly raced horse ran really well to finish 6th. He then ran poorly. It was sort of an odd spot. They ran him in a now-winners at 2 other than, maybe to get one more race into him before the Woodbine turf season ended. He didn't run well, but he's now with Christophe Clement for Jose Ortiz. Is he going to be short off the bench?
I don't know. We'll see. Clement's pretty good off of layoffs. I don't know if I would make that my concern. We'll see. I agree with you. I thought he ran fine in the Northern Dancer. I mean, he never looked like he was going to win, but, he ran fine. That was a really tough spot for him. I liked his first 2 turf races. I liked his maiden win. Not that it was anything special, but I liked the way that he ran. I liked the way that he finished. When he won the Breeders, though, I mean, boy, that was a pretty big pace for that distance, and he just came from way out of it. I mean, I really feel like he had all the best of it that day.
Roman Approval's dropping down to a level where we know he can be dangerous. He wired a similar field back at Belmont on October the 8th, and whenever he gets a nice easy pace, he runs pretty well. He doesn't win very often, lots of seconds, 16 seconds from 39 lifetime starts, but he's getting a drop in class he needs, and according to the Timeform US pace projector, he should be up close to the pace with another horse a horse that might be a little off form in the 11 Iron Power.
Yeah, and I don't know if Iron Power really has his speed anymore. We'll see about that. Roman Approval is a nice horse. He won, as you pointed out, at this class and distance last year, but he wasn't facing this kind of field that day. I think it's going to be a little tough for him, but he's a nice horse.
Trainer Kieran McLaughlin's had a whale of a time getting the number 7 Argod to the races. He's a 5-year-old and he's only run 4 lifetime starts. At the end of the day, though, he hasn't run badly in any of those races. He's hit the board in all of them. It looked like he was beat turning for home last time out when he was confronted from the outside by Galleon Mast, and off a year-plus layoff, he ran well.
Yeah, he really did. I agree with that. I thought he was beating that race. I'll give him some credit for digging in and winning, and at 9 furlongs off of a very long life. There are things to like about that race. Now he's got to stretch out again, though, in a really tough field. I don't know, man. He was tough for me to take.
It's possible we haven't seen his best, but as you saw from the Timeform US pace projector, he could work out a really good trip sitting 3rd off of the 2 speeds. Divine Oath, like Argod, is making his 2nd start off an extremely long layoff. He was placed in an allowance at Keeneland. He didn't take much money. He didn't do much running. Now he's dropping in for a tag for Graham Motion. This horse once had some ability, a 3-time graded stakes winner. Looks like he's fallen on hard times physically.
Right, and again, listen, talking about really tough allowance races, how about that one at Keeneland? He landed it off the left last time. That was a loaded field. He didn't run it all. Now they're going to give him up for the 62.5. You know, we'll see what we get from him. I'm not betting him.
Before we get to a closing bell, let's talk quickly about Iron Power, who ran in the Artie Schiller Stakes in November. That was not an easy trip for him. Off slow, forced wide on the first turn, but he just didn't finish with a lot of gas. They got back to the turf most recently with him at this level. I thought all in all it was a decent trip sitting inside behind the pace, and he just didn't fire. This is another horse. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's just, you know, you start looking at those races since they came back off the layoff last May. I mean, he just, to me anyway, hasn't run that well in any of them.
Let's take a look at our top picks for our Wednesday race of the day. This is not a race I'm interested in playing on. I think Mr. Maybe is the most likely winner.
Yeah, I think he is.
I would go 3, 2, 1, and 10, but I don't think I'm going to play. I think for all the reasons Mike mentioned, Mr. Maybe might be the most likely winner of this race, but there are a lot of questions surrounding where he is from a form standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a class standpoint, that I would take it very, very easy. Let's talk about the number 10 Closing Bell. You've always been high on this horse. And his last 2 races, maybe the argument could be made, was just too short for him.
Yeah, you could argue that. And I just, even with that being said, I think I could argue that he was best both times. He didn't win either one. I think he might have been best both times. That Tampa race, he looked like he was going to make that run up the inside in the stretch. And Gold Shield, who was on lead, sort of floated over on the rail, intimidated him, and then just shut him off. And he had to take back out of that position, come around. He was running again at the end of that race, but it was too late. I thought he ran well, and that was his first start back from a long trip to Australia, too. And then last time, I mean, I know he was the favorite, and I know that, listen, he got beat by Mark My Style, who, you know, he would be 1,000,000 to 1 in this race. But I mean, how was he supposed to win? They just walked on the lead in there and then sprinted the last 3 furlongs. This horse was actually making up ground on that race. I don't think that race is nearly as bad as it looks. He's got the back form. The distance is okay for him. He might actually be a fair price in this race. I'm just going to bet him and hope that he can still run.
And I think he could drift up a little bit off that 5 to 1 morning line. This race is that loaded, but I think you make a very good point. There was no pace in that race. The distance was short. And when they sped up on the turn, Manny Franco did everything he could to try to stay within range, but it was just a sharp quarter mile they took from about the 3/8 pole into the stretch. And Closing Bell, finally, once he was able to get into gear in the stretch, he was closing into the margin. He hasn't won in a long time. His career has also been compromised by shipping him out to Australia, very questionable decision. 3rd start of the form, so for him this is a sprinter route, 1 mile and a 16th all the way out to 1.25 miles. Maybe it's a good spot for the 10 Closing Bell. Mike's going 10, 2, 3, and 1 in our formulator race of the day. If you're playing the Wednesday Belmont card from home, here's the deal for new DRF Bet subscribers. Please be a VIP for a week on DRF Bets. Just sign up to drfbets.com/VIP. You qualify with a $300 bonus and lots more. Approximate post time for race number 8 at Belmont on Wednesday, 5:13 Eastern. Good luck.